If you guys could pick one awful thing from comics history to completely wipe out of comics history altogether, what would it be?
Rape.
I love when we both do that.
Yeah, didn't even. We've had that conversation before. Do you want to take this one?
You can go for it.
Oh, thanks. The reliance on rape as a plot device, it really bothers me.
Well, it's really just short. Oh, sorry, I know.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's really just shorthand for something bad happening to a woman, you know. But like, I guess the only bad thing that can happen to you is getting raped.
Yeah, and also like, nobody robs banks anymore. Like there was that issue of New Avengers where the Wrecking Crew broke out of prison, and the Wrecker was like gonna rape a 15-year-old girl. But the Wrecker doesn't do that. The Wrecker has a magic crowbar and he breaks stuff open.
But that's how you know he's bad.
Yeah, like we don't know that people are like.
Well,
I mean, admittedly, you have to present these characters as villains to get the hero something to fight against. But first of all, it's everywhere. It's so overused, and from like a purely technical standpoint, a plot point that gets used that much loses all of its impact.
Well, it's a bad plot point and it's used at all. Like, remember when we were talking about the Sentry thing where there was the villain who had like they wanted to say he was bad, so they were like, oh, he threw a school bus full of children like off a cliff.
Also the Wrecker.
That's ridiculous.
Also the Wrecker.
Well, that's how you know he's bad. But rape is like that. But if that happened all the time, like if every villain was throwing school buses full of children off like cliffs all the time.
It's like Mark Waid said about Image Comics back in the early 90s. Like when he was talking about Kingdom Come, it's like, yeah, everybody's an Image character, and they all throw buses at each other. When it happens that often, it loses all its impact, and yet it's still like it loses its storytelling impact, but it's still like really horrible because it's the only like sexual violence is like the only thing a lot of writers do with like female characters because it's such a shorthand for like the worst thing that can happen to you. Like the worst thing that can happen to a dude is like your wife gets killed or whatever, but that's in a refrigerator. And again, it's really it simultaneously like trivializes it, but then also like it's still like horrific, but it's horrific in like a way that the creators aren't going for. It's horrific in like like oh come on, and it's so weird because like why why? I can't even finish that question.
Well, why is one question?
Yeah. Like I don't know like why why it's the go-to tragedy,
You know what else is really bad? Like incest. Like why isn't incest just like why doesn't that happen to like every character? It's like it doesn't make any sense.
Well,
why does everyone get raped?
There was that time Peter Parker got molested by a guy who looked a lot like him.
Let's forget about that comic. That totally.
You guys know that comic?
Yeah.
A lot of you do. I'd never made the Uncle Ben connection until I read it online, and I'm like, yeah, Skip Westcott looks a lot like Uncle Ben because he's like a 6th grader with white hair. That's the Spider-Man and Power Pack anti-child abuse. It was a giveaway comic.
I never was afraid to read that one when I was younger.
Its heart's in the right place.
If there's one continuity, like a piece of continuity canon from any of the major comic book publishers that you could like do away with and say that it never happened, or change it and make it like it was, what would that be?
So many. The Legion reboot. Not the first one. The second and third ones. I would have kept that Legion around. That's a really strong book. It was a really strong cast of characters. That, for one thing, if any of you guys have probably one of my most read articles on ComicsAlliance talks about taking stories back to the way they were. Takes a lot of the minority characters out, and for the Legion, it's especially bad because it not only gets rid of XS and Kid Quantum, but it also gets rid of Gates and Chikari and Censor, who were the non-humanoid Legionnaires, who made that book look like it had aliens in it. Because when it came out in 1958, all the aliens are just white guys. They're just dudes who look exactly like us, who just live on other planets and have superpowers.
There's a bunch of supermen.
Yeah, it was a bunch of like why is every planet populated by white people? So that I feel like had a really sort of futurist take on it. And I also really like those costumes. I think those costumes are really awesome. Probably that, or, I mean, I would like to. I've often talked about how, like, I love Silver Age Superman, but I kind of see why he had to go. Because the John Byrne style Superman like works better for modern storytelling. You know, he's still Superman, and he's still got what defines Superman, which is that, you know, morality and that desire to help people. But he's not quite as powerful, and he had that experience of sort of growing up as a human that I really liked. Where, you know, he didn't get super. He was never Superboy. Like, he wasn't super strong when he was a kid, and he wasn't. He was never. He couldn't fly until he was like 18. I really liked that version of Superman a lot. But at the same time, like, you know, if all we were getting was stuff as good as All-Star Superman, which is a love letter to Silver Age Superman, I mean, I'll take that. But the Legion, I mean, Legion's still a really personal thing. You guys have it?
I mean, I think there's so many things that I don't care about. But I mean, for
The
me,
Sentry?
the Sentry.
Except for Agent Sentry.
Agent
Sentry was awesome.
Agent
Which is also a love letter to Silver Age Superman.
We're not saying that for any particular reason other than it's really real.
But yeah, I don't know. There are a couple things like the Draco. I don't do the Draco.
That's
That
been
was
on
terrible. Nightcrawler's father doesn't need to be the devil, the actual devil.
Yeah, because like the whole point of Nightcrawler is like the entire point of Nightcrawler is that he looks like a demon, but he's not one. So you can't judge him by what he looks like. That's the message of the X-Men. So making Nightcrawler like an actual demon sort of undermines that
They were
point.
right all along. The dudes with pitchforks.
Yeah, the dudes with pitchforks.
Totally right.
The dudes with pitchforks in Giant Size X-Men #1 are totally right.
They had the right idea.
Yeah, he is like, you're the devil. Well, yeah, I am. But come on.
And I don't know. I could have done without the Sentry Rogue thing. Hey, did you know that Rogue used to bang the Sentry? Just cause. Just cause. It's like her whole thing that, like, you know, she can't touch people, and like there's this whole sexual metaphor that's going on. And they just retcon it in like one panel, never talk about it.
Yeah.
And she runs off crying, just so she can cry at a funeral.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Crying is another thing I would get rid of.
The important thing is that she cried.
What was it there like 5 years there where all Superman did was cry? Every cover had Superman crying. But yeah.
Caleb?
James?
I don't know.
Red Hulk being Thunderbolt.
Don't get me started on Red Hulk.
We'll be here all of that.
I guess I was telling somebody about this the other day, and it kind of goes back to the science question. Warren Ellis did he only did one thing for DC ever, right? And it was that JLA Classified, from forever ago. And it was like a cool comic, but there was a scene where the creature, the bad guy, was it was kind of like the old school Justice League comics where he kind of trapped each JLA member in their worst fear or something, and he was psychically taunting them. And there's a scene where Wonder Woman was drowning, and Warren Ellis, does this sci-fi thing where he knows a bunch of he does a bunch of actual research and science, and he kind of tries to slide it into the comic book world.
You're having fun and learning.
Oh yeah, exactly. And having your mind blown and becoming depressed.
Just like you guys all are right now.
Yes. But Wonder Woman she's drowning, and the villain is taunting her, saying, "Well, humans when they're gestating and they're in the womb, they have gills and they can kind of breathe water and stuff. All you gotta do is remember how." I'm like, Wonder Woman was never in a womb. She's clay. I got so mad. I think I was like, Warren Ellis does know better. First of all, who's responsible for this?
Who's responsible for this?
Yes,
indeed?
who's responsible for this?